This is the second video on perfect competition. In this one, we'll discuss section 13.4, the idea of long-run equilibrium, and how we model the forces of entry and exit in our graph. Right? Entry is going to happen when profit is greater than zero and firms get attracted to that. They're going to smell it. Exit is going to happen when the average firm is making a loss, and firms are going to smell that as well, and they're going to start getting out of the industry. Those are going to have larger repercussions for the market as a whole. Everyone that is left behind, or everyone that is facing these new entrants, is going to have a change in their price. Okay, so to help us see that, we'll draw the perfectly competitive graph another time from scratch, because you can never draw it too many times. So remember, we have our global market over here, and then the individual on the right. And we draw them next to each other because they are connected. The global market is made up of the supply and the demand. Let's say for salmon, keep my favorite product in there. This is the global quantity, the individual quantity that comes from our harvester, Gusty. And the global quantity and global price come out of the global graph. The global price feeds into the individual. That's one way that the two graphs are connected. Let's see if you can figure out the second way in this video. Becomes the individual's price, demand, and marginal revenue. Dusty has a marginal cost curve. Tells him how much each salmon costs individually to harvest. And that determines the profit maximizing or loss minimizing level of output. So remember last video when Gusty was having a bad day? Let's help him have a good day this time. Let's imagine that Gusty starts off from a place where he is making a profit. Something is causing his average total cost to be low. Maybe he got a good deal on fuel at the beginning of the season. Maybe he hired some excellent laborers who happened to be in his family and didn't cost very much. Something happened to make his average total cost be low. He's having a great day. Remember that we can see his profit or loss by looking at where his quantity intersects the average total cost curve, right here. That tells us his average total cost. And we can draw the profit rectangle by doing P minus ATC. That's the vertical, multiplied by Q. So this whole box is Gusty's initial profit. So in this situation, where there's going to be entry, we start where average profit is greater than zero in the beginning. The average individual in the market is making a profit. What is going to happen next is that competitors enter. Remember, in perfect competition, there's no barriers to getting in or out. This has to be Alaska salmon before you needed a permit. So anyone can come up and fish. If you start hearing about this guy in Koliganek, Alaska, making a killing from fishing for salmon, he's having a great day, you just want to come and ruin that day, right? People want to come and compete as soon as they hear of a market opportunity, right? Profit maximizing rational individuals will smell profit, and if there's not a barrier to getting in, they'll get in. We have a way to model entry. Remember number of suppliers? In our chart of things that could shift supply and demand, we had number of buyers over here, number of suppliers over here. That can still shift supply. When the number of suppliers goes up, global supply is going to increase. Each person entering the market, you can think of as shifting the global supply just a little bit. It's exactly what was happening in Alaska salmon markets in the 1970s. It was getting easier and easier to access Alaska. Infrastructure was improving. People from California and Oregon and Washington heard about how much money you could make in one season, and they started coming north, right? They would come up for the summer, fish for a month, make $100,000, and go back home. Each one of those entrants that smelled profit increased the global supply. The way we model entry is an increase in the number of suppliers in the global market. Now just let the graph show you what happens. There's going to be a higher quantity sold globally, more salmon for everyone. Consumers will love it. Competition lowers their price, right? There's more people out there to sell salmon. That means there would be a surplus at the old price, so the market corrects by lowering the price. But it's bad news for Gusty, right? Because that lower global price is going to wipe out all of his profit. This is now his new price, his new demand, his new marginal revenue. He's going to react by producing less, right? There's going to be less of the pie for Gusty as an individual, and his ATC curve kind of got totally wiped out, but it's under here somewhere. That was his ATC. Now, his price is equal to ATC at the quantity where he wants to produce. His profit is 0 because his price is equal to his average total cost. So the final consequence, when you start out in a situation where there's positive profit to be had, and profit was positive in the beginning, when suppliers enter and increase global supply, the price goes down for everyone. And profit goes down for everyone until, as long as there's just a sliver of profit to be had, profit will keep falling until profit is 0. Which is why when we draw the long run equilibrium, there's only one place we can draw the ATC. It needs to sit right down on top of the price. Draw that for you one more time so you can see if that was not clear. But think of each individual entering marching the supply curve to the right and gradually lowering Gusty's price over here until all the profit is squeezed out of the market and nothing is left. That wedge between the average total cost and the price that we started with gets squeezed until all the profit is squeezed out. Okay, so if you feel like you get that, you can tune out now. I'm just going to draw the long run global equilibrium. You'll see this at the beginning of the next 2 videos as well, because this is the baseline we have. For every disruption to these markets, this is our understanding of where things start off. We have the market for global salmon, the demand, the supply, setting the quantity and the price, affecting an individual producer, because that price becomes their demand and marginal revenue. That individual relies on their marginal cost curve to tell them how much to produce in order to maximize profit. And the last piece of the long run equilibrium graph is their average total cost curve, which can only pass through one point. Its minimum has to be on marginal cost, but we also know that profit has to be 0, or else someone would be entering and pushing down price or exiting and pushing up price. And that means the only stable long-run equilibrium is when ATC is right there, sitting its cute little ATC bum right on the price line. Okay, so the best way to prepare yourself for, I don't know, problem sets, exams, I just did entry. See if you can explain to yourself what would cause exit. What would happen if you start off in the opposite situation? where the average person is losing money in the beginning. What would occur and how would it bring the market back to long-run equilibrium? And then you should go ahead and watch the shift graph.